My artist research project was done, I did it on Shirin Neshat. She's an Iranian artist. She was born in 1957 in Kasvin, Iran. But when she was about 17, her father sent her over to the United States to be able to finish her education here. Shortly after that, though, the Islamic Revolution occurred, barring her from her homeland for the next almost 20 years. Um, upon returning, the first thing that she had mentioned was that the home she came back to was unrecognizable. Um, so yeah, at that time, she really didn't go into photography immediately after finishing her education, but kind of the beginning of her expressing herself through photography happened when she did return to Iran. Some of the things that she saw there, the differences between what her country was now and what it was before. Um, she started to use photography as kind of a way of documenting what she saw. Um, the So that was about the mid 90s when she began her career in photography, and she didn't begin with much of a political voice. But she did eventually develop a political viewpoint that, as you'll see, she begins to express that through her work. Um, and this obviously makes it unsafe for her to return to her homeland because it's unclear how that message will be taken by the regime. Um, so specifically, what she's spoken on the topic of the political angle of her work, she views politics as inseparable from the art made by Iranian artists. That it is impossible to separate politics from her work. Um, Obviously, the political statements she makes are controversial in her homeland and make it so that she must stay in the States for now, or she views herself as a nomadic artist, so going to different countries as well, but she's still unable to be able to return to her home, to return to any family that she still has living there. Um, she's made a statement on the two main purposes, on kind of the twofold mission of her work. Is number one, to paint a picture of the strength of Iranian women, to break and shift Western paradigm on the way we think about Iranian women, specifically changing the idea that they are repressed or weak or being oppressed by a male dominated regime, that she wants to share with the world that the women of her country are strong, that they are resolute, and that they are the revolutionary or forward thinkers. And so the main thing is this empowering women, but the second kind of part of her mission is as well to bring to light and kind of shed a critical lens on the Iranian regime. Um, so, as mentioned, one of the things that she's doing is trying to shift Western thought on women, specifically from her background, the women from her country, the women from her religion, that they be thought of as something different than weak or voiceless, but that they are instead strong innately, and that they have the capacity within them, and that they really are the moving force behind revolutionary thought in her land and really everywhere. Um, so kind of a lot of her work does touch this reconciling the religious devotions, especially kind of with the negative stigma against the Muslim veils that women are required to wear, and just reconciling this with their personal devotion instead of that they are being forcibly oppressed by the men in their society. Um, so a lot of feminism kind of shows in her art. She considers herself to be a feminist, and that she's kind of a voice for um, specifically the women of Iran, as I mentioned, that they are the strong ones there, and that they can be empowered for change, and that they will be the engine for that change. The cool thing that I found in her artwork was the text that shows up a lot. Unfortunately, not in this piece, but in most of the other ones, you will often see inscriptions in Farsi that are artistically added and kind of contoured into these images, and I find that really cool because these, as you can see in this image as well, are inscriptions in Farsi, and they are specifically writings, most often or always by different Iranian women who are poets, who are kind of well-renowned poets in their societies. One of the interesting things also about her work is that she often employs specific symbols, like for example the veil that that both directly and kind of indirectly reinforces the religious side of things, but another one is this gaze that she often mentions in her work. So, in the ideology of feminism, there is what is known as the male gaze, the objectifying or sexualizing gaze of society that has repressed and has objectified women, and and her work often employs this looking back at the audience as a way of challenging that gaze, as a way of challenging that objectifying gaze, showing that women are more empowered, that they are more than their bodies, that they are strength, and that they are this force for change that I've mentioned. So what I find cool about her work as well is this duality that she uses. As I mentioned, she employs the veil often, that her subjects are often wearing a veil, that there's this Farsi writing in a religious style, however, often written by forward-thinking and very and even secular writings from these female poets of well-renowned in Iran. She'll often employ even a gun, expressing her own message against on violence and everything as well. So I really like her work. I thought this was a really eye-opening experience for me, and I think it's striking to see the way the eyes and the mystery in her work really intrigues me. So thank you.